After a long, wet winter, the warming touch of spring has finally started to thaw our soils. Here you are. And the native plants and flowers of Fat Pig Farm have come to life, like 7 kinds of colour on a Christmas morning. It's a beautiful time of year. The hawthorns are flowering. Everything's growing like billio. We've got new calves, new piglets, new ducklings. I love this part of spring. Morning, Hannah. How are you?
Yeah, good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It's been 6 months now since our friend Hannah, an expert in permaculture, helped us make some important changes to how we manage our property. So at the moment, the water's just going straight down the hill?
Yes.
And we want to slow it, or...?
Slow, yeah. So you want to slow, sink and store it in the soil.
It's got more and more work. So we're now at the halfway point in our year-long master plan to improve the fertility of our soil, the health of our farm and the taste of our food. The garden's pumping, the pig paddock's resting and they're looking really, really good. Heaps of grass growth and no bare earth. I'm actually putting the cows through there already, taking the fertility away rather than making it over-fertile. And the swales, we've actually got those huge trenches that we've dug across the hillside. They're capturing all the water, and as it dries out in the next few months, they're going to be doing the great job of storing water rather than just shedding it into the creek and getting it out of here. It's looking good. My name is Matthew Evans. After years as a big city food critic, I bought a farm in Tasmania to better understand what I eat by growing it myself. I built a restaurant right at the top of the farm, but now I want to get a better understanding of what I eat eats. This means starting from the ground up to improve the health of our soil, our farm and our food for generations to come. From foodie to farmer to chef to rehabilitator of the land. How hard can it be? I reckon the coming of spring on Fat Pig Farm is a little like being in the sunny eye of a giant storm. All around us, our crops and paddocks are furiously growing, but there's relatively little we can actually harvest to serve to guests in the restaurant. We call this time of year the hungry patch. Looks like heaps growing in the garden, but it's the hungry patch. Leeks, onions, things that are still growing, aren't mature yet. There's peas, broad beans, you can harvest a few of those. The broad beans have only just started, but carrots, beetroot, parsnip, broccoli, cabbage, all finished. Things like radishes, yeah, Japanese turnips, yeah, but compared to the 20, 30, 40 things we can harvest in February, now we're down to about 5. With so much of our focus this year on finding ways to help our soils stay healthy, we needed a way to stop thousands of noxious blackberry bushes from competing with our pasture grasses for important nutrients. And that's where these guys came in. Goats have been here over winter and they've eaten a lot of the blackberries down. They've really gone the hawthorns. You can actually see pretty much everything that below a certain level, everything that they can reach, they've eaten. They're not keeping up with all the new shoots, but I've actually got to move them on. I think I've got more of a blackberry problem on the other side I need them to actually get on top of. We'll rest this area for a little while, get them back and then smash this area again in a couple of months. Now, it's all well and good for me to wax lyrical about moving this mob into a more deserving paddock, but I'm far outnumbered. So this could be a job for our resident goat whisperer and her 2 Padawans, Headley and Yoshi.
So what I thought we'd do is we'll call them down, put the pellets in the trough.
Yep.
Then one of us will take the trough and hopefully they'll follow the trough. And then the boys can be on either side of the gate, kind of herding them from behind. Yeah, so they move forwards generally if you're behind their shoulder, like cows, Headley. How easy does that sound?
Hard.
Cabot, cabot! They're not coming at all.
Do you want to go get them?
I'm gonna go get them. Cabot, cabot!
Goats have been a relatively minor player in Australian agriculture, but globally, over 60% of the world's population eat goat meat. Our mob are a cross of Swiss and South African breeds, so they're fast-growing and love cooler climates.
Cabot, cabot!
Thankfully, they also love Sadie. Sadie's a bit of a goat whisperer, I think. There are days in winter where I was like, oh, I'm sure the goats will be fine, and she would trudge up here after dark just to make sure everything was okay, that they were all fine. Without eating out of the palm of a hand. That's enough showing off, bring them down.
Come
You look like a professional. All right, you ready?
Yep, here we go.
You go, go.
Come on, come on.
Well, of course, they can go straight across the bridge.
Is that all of them? Oh, they're going to scatter when they get to the other end.
Through the gate.
Through the gate. Stop, 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 stop.
We won't.
We have to go round.
We have to entice them.
Just put the trough just by the gate, I reckon. That's what we probably should have done in the first place. What a mess.
So it's textbook to the last 2 metres where they decided to veer right and head down round the dam instead of through the wide open gate into freedom. I can see them on this edge of the dam.
Hello, lovelies.
Are the boys in the right place?
Is there someone up there? Yoshi, perfect. Thank you, love. Come on.
Told you it'd be easy, Headley.
2, 3, 4, 5.
What was hard about that? And look, they've got all this space. New blackberries.
You can see how they're attacking the grass in here.
No, I can't believe it.
But it looked like there was heaps of grass and heaps of blackberries up the top, but the way they're kind of chowing down here, I reckon...
It's a hungry patch for goats.
Hungry patch for goats.
Too. With only 10% of our crops able to supply our lunch menus in the restaurant during the hungry patch, we have to get creative with what we are able to serve to our guests. So I've got an idea for an Eastern Mediterranean pie using the greens that are available. This is chard, of which silver beet is a variety. So this is rainbow chard. So you've got pinks, yellows, whites. These are beautiful. You can actually use all that stem in cooking. When I was an apprentice, we used to cut the stem out, put it in mornay and call it fennel mornay because people didn't know what fennel was in the 80s. These are broad beans. Not a lot of broad beans on them yet, but you can actually eat these top bits, the shoots. They're really quite sweet. The leaves, as they get older, lose their charm. You can just char grill that, serve it as a vegetable. It's got a really lovely beany flavour. Right, with a basket full of charred broad bean leaves and some kale and mustard leaves, it's time for the hero of this hungry patch dish, a nice flaky pastry. Countries like Greece and Malta are legendary for the way they combine short crust pastry with their wild greens. Butter and lard are rubbed into the flour with some yoghurt added. The fats in the lard and yoghurt work well to provide flavour and stop the dough forming a tough gluten texture. It looks good. I can still see little flecks, different colours, so it looks uneven. That's perfect. If it looks even, you've overmixed it. And it's really soft though, slightly sticky. You can't roll it at this stage. Got to go back into the fridge for a little while I get the filling made. I've got the fire going for the pie. A normal person would cook this in an oven inside, but I am so in love with this barbecue and grill, whatever this thing is. So I've got some herbs as well, fresh mint, dill, and this is just continental parsley. And then my greens, which are all wilted here. I've just cooked them till they've softened. Now I'm going to thicken that. I'm going to add a couple of other flavours to it. Salt, love it, pepper. Nutmeg is really good, and then I'm going to fold through a couple of raw eggs, and it's going to bind it all together and enrich it. Might even add a touch of olive oil to it. Now at this point you can actually taste it. I'm happy with that. So nail that pastry, cooking the pastry in a camp oven. What a decent thickness of pastry. I don't know, 5 mils, something like that underneath. Getting softer as I roll. Have to work a bit quicker. Pop the pastry into the tin. Let's get those greens in. Press it down really well. and then it's sort of folding over. I'm just trying to pleat it a little bit. Every time you put a pleat, obviously it's double the thickness of pastry. So there we go. Just pop that in there and we'll get our fire set. So the idea with the camp oven is you have coals underneath and coals on top, so you're actually creating that oven-like environment. That's why the camp oven's got that lid with the lip to hold coals. I'm not an expert camp oven cook, I've got to be honest, but who wouldn't want to use this fire pit for something like this? Woo! The mixture in the middle is set. I reckon that is perfectly cooked. And that'll be great served hot or cold for our lunch service tomorrow. Who says you have to go hungry in the hungry patch? Even though our little 70-acre patch of Tassie has been a working farm for over 100 years, thankfully, we're still treated to the odd glimpse of the timeless cycle of life that this land has led for thousands of years. I just want to show you this. That noise is a bronze lapwing, plover as they're commonly known. This is its nest. This is our asparagus patch. Sadie found it the other day, she's checking the asparagus. And there's this nest, 4 beautiful eggs sitting right out in the open. Who would have thought that was a good survival strategy? Leave your eggs like that. Plover parents remain together for life. But the harsh fact is that Mum and Dad will be lucky to raise even one of these chicks to adulthood. When they hatch, the little chicks will be somewhere near here and the bird will start to swoop. A bit like a Maggie, but more dangerous. Anyway, better leave them so the mum can get back on the eggs. When the chicks emerge, Mum and Dad will protect them, but the baby plovers will actually have to forage for their own food. Luckily for them, it's spring, and there are heaps of insects and worms for them in the warm soil. But for the human residents of Fat Pig Farm, spring is a lean time in the garden. So foraging up a feed sometimes requires us to go further afield. And about 90 minutes drive north at Dodgers Ferry, my mate Mick Giuliani, an Italian cook with a passion for collecting feral foods, has guaranteed to hunt me up some wild delicacies for lunch.
So here we are. So that's Steele's
This is
Island.
beautiful.
It is gorgeous, isn't it?
What's the river?
This is the Carlton River, mate.
Plan A is to land a gigantic Australian salmon. Of course, we've been here for 2 hours already, so plan A is not quite, well, going to plan. So if we don't get anything, can we go to plan B?
Well, we'll go for a forage.
Yep.
I reckon. So there's still quite a few asparagus on at the moment.
Yep.
So we can get onto those. There's a bit of buckshorn around at the moment as well. So that's a nice little bitter...
Buckshorn.
Buckshorn plantain.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's quite a bit of foraging that we can do. And we'll definitely have better luck than we did here.
In Tasmania, the destruction of Aboriginal cultures was brutal and swift, so much of the knowledge they had in identifying and using native wild foods is largely lost. But the traditions of foraging itself cross many cultures, and following World War II, immigrants like Mick's Italian parents introduced their own kind of foraging skills to Australia. And for a young Mick, wild asparagus was often on the menu.
There you go, there. So
There's a spear right there.
you want to grab him?
Yeah.
He's all yours.
Anywhere down there?
Yep. Wonderful. And there's one behind it if you can see him.
There we go.
Cool.
Long, thin one.
We'll keep that one.
Yep.
And munch on him.
See what it's like. That's beautiful.
It's good, isn't it?
It's really sweet. We've
Yeah,
got a few handful of these at home and they're nothing like that. Oh, there's another one. These feral asparagus are native to Northern Africa and Western Asia.
Excellent.
So technically they're weeds in Australia, but they're very common along Tassie's east coast.
Before I move off, I have a tendency just to stand and have a bit of a look about.
For snakes or for?
No, for more asparagus snakes.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't tend to see them. So through here, we've got some good plantain growing. So that's it there.
Oh, that's
See
it?
these guys here?
Yeah.
So you can see that the little seed heads, we give them away. and that's why it's called buck's horn.
Oh, so it's bucks. It's actually the
horns. As in a buck. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it's got those bits coming off.
Yeah, indeed. You want to have a taste of that?
Yeah, that's the seed head.
That's the seed head. That's
the
young one.
Is that the best bit?
Oh, look, it tastes. I like it. It tastes a little bit like snow pea, maybe baby corn.
It's more interesting than those, in a way.
The texture is different. Yeah. So you've got the seeds. It's really nice.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Mick's been foraging since he was a kid, so his knowledge and keen eye are spot on.
And then just give her a twist and a pull.
When you brought me here, I was like, this looks like a swamp, but now it looks like a food forest.
Yeah, it's that knowledge, I think, that is really sad that it's not being passed on, that it's not common knowledge.
I think we used to eat like hundreds of different things, and now we eat 10 different, vegetables on a regular basis.
And the thing about this stuff too is that it's not sweet, it's not fat, and ultimately, if you look at modern food today, a lot of the stuff that people crave is exactly that. It's full of sugar and full of fat. Yeah. This has got none of that in it, so it doesn't feed those same receptors. This is slightly bitter. It's really good for you. Yeah. That bitterness is something that we actually do need.
I can't wait to try it cooked.
Oh, it's beautiful. We'll leave those ones on because we'll have them as well. Let's keep going.
With our basket full of forage food, we need somewhere to cook up our greens for lunch. Luckily, Mick's at Dodges Ferry local. Look at that.
Here we are.
Stunning.
So Mount Wellington, and that's our boat shed there. So
we're allowed to be here then?
We are allowed to be here. Let's open up and get some stuff out and we'll start eating.
Oh, it is actually a boat shed.
This is our boat shed, yes.
Yeah, you do have a boat in it. This is the basket of goodies, so Mick's got a couple of ideas of what to cook. So I want to wash this verdura, the greens, the buckthorn plantain, and I've got a big sink over here. These wild plantains are very fibrous. That looks good.
Mate, great.
But Mick reckons if you boil it right, they turn a really creamy texture. Boil it wrong, though, and it's a different story.
It's edible almost straight away. It's just that the fibres, if they're not softened enough, it leaves a little ball in your mouth that,
Yeah, not cooking it up. Yeah, let's cook it enough.
Let's cook it enough, all right. So while we're doing that, what we'll do is we'll just grab some garlic and we'll chop that up.
I'll grab that.
We'll get started. All righty, man.
For lunch today, Mick's cooking a dish his old nonna called cucina povera, or peasant cooking.
Yeah, so they're just white beans.
You get them cheap.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping they're beans. I'm hoping they're beans. Yeah, no, they're beans.
Using our foraged greens, this peasant dish has only 3 other ingredients: fried garlic, white beans, and olive oil.
So we wait for that to reduce a little bit now.
Now, while my Fat Pig Farm prosciutto hasn't technically been foraged, it will really sing wrapped around our wild asparagus.
That's good. That's really good. Well done.
This is nearly 2 years old, this one.
It's beautiful. The fat just melts like butter. It's wicked. Well done.
The greens and beans are added to a little sourdough. That looks and smells great.
It does, doesn't it?
And I can't believe it's tinned beans. It's like...
Mate, there's nothing wrong with tinned beans. Seriously, they are good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't that good? And these 2 heroes of the Hungry Patch have foraged up an alfresco lunch I think Mick's old nonna would be proud of. With not much able to be harvested in the garden, spring is the perfect time of year for us to take stock of what will be on our menus in a few months' time. In fact, come summer, I want to be serving our own homemade bread in the restaurant. So 6 weeks ago, I planted our first crop of wheat with agronomist Andrew Cook.
Yeah, maybe 12 kilos per row.
Yeah, 12.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky. He's dropped back in to see how our little experiment is getting along.
It's looking a little, just a bit sparse. Maybe been a little bit waterlogged, bit of lack of nutrition there. You can see further down there, it's a bit taller and greener.
Yeah, that patch is, for some reason, doing much better.
Yeah, that's how it should all look, like that. When it's nice and dark green like that, that means its nutrient levels, especially nitrogen, are really good. When it gets short like that and pales out, it's starting to run out of nitrogen.
All right. Wheat crops, just like any plant, grow strongly in healthy soil. But good soil health depends on elements like nitrogen, oxygen, potassium and water, all being evenly available for microorganisms like bacteria and fungi to be able to release the nutrients that all plants on Earth feed on. So with some sections of our crop looking more nitrogen-starved than others, I'll probably need to fertilise in some way. So this weed that's growing through the middle here, does that matter?
That's a weed called spurry.
Spurry?
Yeah. Yeah, it grows.
I thought it was a pretty flower.
Yeah, no, it does look nice, doesn't it? But that's what the weed is, spurry. Basically what that does is compete for moisture and nutrient.
Right.
The problem is if you put fertiliser on this now, it'll help to a certain extent the wheat, but it's really going to help this too.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's going to love it, and it's going to say thanks for that.
Yeah, yeah. So I've got to weed it first.
Yeah, I'd pull it all out, just clean it all up.
Oh, will you? Thanks.
Yeah, not a problem.
I thought you were offering. You just said I'll pull it all out.
I just pulled some out for you.
Okay, that's how you do it. Now, because our wheat won't be ready for me to use as flour for a few more months yet, I've got some time to experiment. And I've been wanting to try out an old Italian-style bread that mountain shepherds would stock up on before setting off with their flocks. In fact, it isn't just old, it's ancient, dating back to Sardinia over 3,000 years ago. But if you ever visit, may I suggest that you pack a pencil. To be really honest, when Sadie and I were in Sardinia and learning how to make this, I was so excited that I didn't write anything down about how it was made. I just remember the general idea. Make some bread dough that has potato in it, put it in an oven, and it magically ends up as flatbread. So, amounts, let's see how we go. They like to keep things simple, the ancients. So, this is a simple bread recipe. Flour, water, salt, some dried yeast, and I'm adding sourdough starter. Even though I've added yeast, I want to give the complexity, the interesting flavour of the sourdough to this bread. And of course, the mashed potato. Just stir that up. Should probably got a bigger bowl. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Nice and stretchy. And I'll cover that, leave it to rise till it's about double in size. I can't remember exactly how thin they rolled them, but I think fairly thin. Once it's been rolled out into thin plate-sized proportions, it's time for the fun part. I think the old Sardinian shepherds would want to eat these, soft and steaming from the oven. The top and bottom can also be separated and then crisped to use on long walks to the mountaintops. So they're pretty good, I think. Nice and crisp, getting a bit of colour on them where they didn't have colour before. It's fantastic. Not as robust as the ones we had over there, but not bad for a first effort. OK, when our first crop of wheat is ground into our own fat pig flour for summer, these flatbreads will go great at lunch in the restaurant. In the meantime, spring is such a special time on the farm. There's new life everywhere you look. But spare a thought for our plover family waiting on their young brood. Because snake season is only just getting started, and the tiger snake is a natural predator. And there's one under here which is our compost heap. And I'd rather it was somewhere else. Oh no. How about the other way, snake? I can't see it. Okay, come this way. Do what you like. Sometimes feels like the Garden of Eden. And there's a serpent to go with it. Nadia, I'm not going to pick the comfrey today. That's comfrey. It looks like a lot of bees. All right, I reckon you're on your own from here.
You're going to stop there?
I'm stopping here.
They're a garden snail. They're a little grey.
Same species that I would have at my farm.
Yep.
So I could just go home and cook up those ones that I killed earlier today.